This is the Real Change Wilmington podcast, episode 67, Clinton Memorial Hospital volunteer opportunities with our guest today, Veronica Grabill.
It's just a blessing. There's times I go into a room to pray with the family. I leave almost in tears because they've blessed me abundantly.
What is going on, everyone? This is your host of the Real Change Wilmington podcast, Dustin Pierce. Real Change is a positive, constructive, and lighthearted source of local news, events, and resources. In our podcast, we interview leaders of local organizations to help squash rumors and encourage a greater sense of pride in our community. We have a really great interview for you today with our guest, Veronica Grabill, who is the Chaplain and Volunteer Coordinator at Clinton Memorial Hospital, or CMH. Veronica has a very important role in our community to help support and pray with patients and their families who come to the hospital, and also to help organize essential volunteers for the hospital. And we'll talk about some of those opportunities today on the podcast. So without further ado, let's bring in Veronica and get this podcast started. Veronica Grabill, welcome to the Real Change Wilmington podcast. Thanks for being here.
Thank you very much.
So Veronica is the Chaplain and Volunteer Coordinator at Clinton Memorial Hospital. And before we get into that, though, we're just going to talk about who you are and where you're from. So can you tell us, what brought you to Wilmington?
Oh, well, actually, my husband retired, so we left our home in Springboro, bought a little farm here in Clarksville, Harlan Township, and he does hobby farming, and we have cows, and we sell freezer beef cows, and he raises hay, and we had alpacas, so we were living the life on the farm.
That's awesome. And before the podcast, we talked about your kids. You have 4 kids.
We do.
And they do some fun stuff. Can you
Yes, they
talk
do.
about that for a bit?
Yes, having 4 kids, 3 girls and a boy. Our son lives in Montreal, and he and his wife, she's a performer at Cirque du Soleil, and they met in Vegas, and now she's on tour. He was a therapist, outdoor therapist, wilderness therapist. So they were living in Utah at the time, so they would help young people that were struggling, and they just, for 9 months, would live out in the wilderness, camping, doing fun things. And then my oldest daughter works in Vegas as with Chris Angel, who is a magician. And so we have fun places to go travel and see our kids. And then our middle daughter, she lives in New Jersey with her husband and 2 little boys. And then our youngest daughter, she lives and works in Mason.
Mason, Ohio?
Mm-hmm.
That's fun.
And has a 3-year-old little boy that we get to spend a lot of fun time with.
So what are some of your hobbies outside of work?
I love hiking. I was out playing in the snow, love cross-country skiing,
Okay.
and just love being outdoors.
Where's the best spot to cross-country ski?
Anywhere it's flat. So on our land, we were able to do that and enjoy that. So it's just fun.
When did you get into that? What inspired you to do
Probably when we lived in Chicago.
Is that trendy up there? Or was that
It is. Parks. And then even in Dayton, there was some parks there that have it. And I think Caesars Creek has some cross-country skiing areas.
That's fun.
Because being outdoors, working muscles you don't know we have.
Yeah. That's like running. When I'm on vacation, I've run on the beach sometimes, and it's so hard because your muscles like exploding at the end of it. I can imagine like what muscles you work like cross-country ski.
Yeah, just gliding away.
That's fun. So last question about you is, what is a defining moment of your life that helped make you who you are or help shape your values and personality?
Wow. I would have to say what has changed is probably getting involved in church and learning who I am as a child of God and getting direction and just choosing the path that has an eternal value.
When was that for you? What age?
I would say probably 24 years old.
Mm-hmm. Was there like a specific moment, or like were you invited to a church group or something?
I was invited, and it was just through my kids going to vacation Bible school.
Okay.
And then hearing the message and it's like, wow, I didn't know that. So it was like a light bulb went off.
Yeah.
It's giving me awareness of what I did not know. So I was thinking, man, I'm pretty biblically illiterate here.
Mm-hmm.
How did that happen all these years? And just diving in and fellowshipping and learning and being discipled.
Yeah. So is that what made you want to become a chaplain then?
It is. And being able to give back to people that, especially I saw that more during the COVID time, people that were in the hospital and could not have visitors due to the COVID restriction. And I was able to suit up and go into the room and just let them know they weren't alone and that people did care for them.
Mm-hmm.
It was very important.
So let's talk about CMH a bit in the volunteer program. How did you get connected with the hospital first?
Actually, a friend had told me that they were looking to make it a permanent position because I had been volunteers for so long.
Mm-hmm.
So I threw my name in the hat and received a phone call from the CEO and the director of human resources and came in for an interview and got hired. And 8 years later, here I am.
That was a permanent position for the chaplain or for the volunteer coordinator?
There was already a volunteer coordinator there, and she was retiring.
Mm-hmm.
So I was asked to fill in for a time being,
Mm-hmm.
and here I am.
Okay. And then can you tell us about the different departments of the hospital that need volunteer works and what the volunteers do?
Sure. There's opportunities in distribution and materials where people can come in and help count syringes. And we have a couple people that do that and bag it up and tie in. Or we have people that will come in and take what the department might need for surgery that day and put it in a basket, and the basket gets delivered to that department. Or we have people in the ER, which will help people like put not a Band-Aid, but a bracelet on them when they come in to identify who they are. Or we have people at the front desk. As people come in that are getting blood work or x-ray, they will hand them a pager or direct them to where they need to be. Or flowers get donated. Say they can take it up to the patient on the floor, not donated, but delivered. So there are all kinds of departments that need somebody. We have people in Save Days Care or Mother-Baby Department, Family Birthing Center, where people can come up, help with folders. They can help with the baby's cap or various things like that. So there seems to be every department could probably use somebody.
Okay.
Yeah.
How many volunteers do you have now? And like, is there an ideal number that you want to maintain?
Well, right now we're probably down to under 30 since COVID. Some of the folks did not come back. The elderly population were just afraid to come back to the hospital setting. But yeah, they've retired and moved on. So we would like to keep it right around 40 to 60.
Okay.
There's always a need somewhere.
What are the typical age ranges for volunteers? And is there any kind of age restriction with volunteering?
18 and above. And we've had people as old as 93 that come and they will stuff envelopes. And there's just something for every age group.
Nice. And then what's the application process for becoming a volunteer? And what's the commitment, I guess, also?
They will get a volunteer packet, and in it checks their HIPAA, media release, various forms that they fill out, and we will do a background check. Then when everything comes back good, we can meet with them, do an onboarding, and we can find out what department is interesting to them, introduce them to the director of that department, and see what tasks they can do.
So we did like a walkthrough a few months ago, and it was cool to see all the different departments that you guys have in the volunteers. I don't know how to say this politically correctly, but there was one department where there was someone with special needs that was breaking down boxes.
Yes.
Was he a volunteer or a staff member?
Volunteer.
Okay. So people even with like a special need.
No, that's an employee. That's an employee.
Okay.
But we do have some that came from the Nike Center that are volunteers as well.
That's awesome. So what are some of the challenges of getting volunteers? You mentioned one is that after COVID, some people who were older didn't want to come back. So what are some of like the challenges? And then how are you overcoming that to get new volunteers? And where do you get them from?
We're getting them from all walks of life. We've had some that are teachers that have retired and want to come back. And we have others that are married, family members that just want to come while their kids are in school, give them something to do, give back to the community. So we see all ages.
And you said also, like, even today you have some kind of group with Clinton County Leadership.
We do.
You get students from that as well who want to volunteer?
Yes. This morning someone said, can I have an application? I'm 18. I'd love to volunteer. Like, oh, this is wonderful. Yeah.
And also, I think you mentioned some students need volunteer hours too. So that's another way to get volunteers.
Some schools require volunteer community service. So we get students that come in and want to earn their hours to graduate and put them in a department, and that works out perfect.
And what are some of your personal proudest moments being a volunteer coordinator, or even your job as a chaplain too?
For the volunteer coordination, just seeing the volunteers just look so forward to come in, and on Tuesday mornings at 8:20, we have a prayer time in the chapel. And so we see the volunteers come in for that, employees, we've seen patients. patients' family members that are waiting for their families in surgery. So it's just neat to see the unity of the hospital and the people in the community.
Yeah.
And as far as the chaplain goes, it's just a blessing. I mean, there's times I go into a room to pray with the family. I mean, I leave almost in tears because they've blessed me abundantly. And just the love and the caring spirits that people portray. I love it.
And you deal with some pretty dark things too sometimes. So
At times, there's death in hospice patients. And then there's other times there's a new life. A set of twins are being born, or, new parents. Are exciting to have their new little bundle of joy in their arms. So it's a blessing.
Yeah. So one question I always ask is just, is there any stigmas, rumors that you've heard in the community that you want to address that aren't true? For instance, something that I hear sometimes is that maybe the hospital's being sold or being bought by someone else. Anything like that you would maybe want to address?
Yeah, that rumor's always flying around. And no, we're not being sold. We're owned by our parent company is Scion Health. And Clinton Memorial Hospital is here to stay. We service the community. We have patients from Columbus, Dayton, Cincinnati, and Wilmington and the counties nearby. So we're here to serve and give good care to the community.
Nice. I didn't know about that Scion company. Do they own other hospitals?
They do.
Okay.
They do, and they're based out of Louisville.
Interesting. So what keeps you, or why is what you do important to our community, and what keeps you passionate about it?
What's important is just to let people know that they're cared for and that they're valued and they're not alone. So my passion is to come alongside and just be there and meet their needs.
As a volunteer coordinator, I'm assuming the hospital has a need for extra help as opposed to just hiring more people. So I assume that there's that need as well, right? People need to be cared for. So
right.
Volunteers are needed and important, right?
Right. And we have some volunteers that will go from room to room and see if the patient needs refresh their ice water or heated blanket or, just a hand to hold. Mm-hmm. We have someone that just wants to come in and read a book to people. So there's all types of needs.
Yeah. And the question we always ask guests is, what's a quote or piece of wisdom that has helped guide you that you would like to share with other people?
I would say I've been blessed, so I'd like to bless others. And we're out there to be unified and help one another.
Yeah. And then finally, what is a positive, real change that you'd like to see in our community?
I would say see people come together and be unified and be positive, have a positive outlook. There's so much good in this community, so many good people. Mm-hmm. I just hate to see people being attacked verbally.
Yeah. A lot of misinformation or maybe just parts of information and then you go on a story. But overall, there's a lot of good people here for sure. Good intentions.
Absolutely. And if you have that doubt, whatever you're doubting, just go to that venue or that facility or that person.
Yeah.
Sit down and have a cup of coffee and find out why you're thinking the way you're thinking. Maybe they can shed some light on it. And because there's good here.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to leave us with in the podcast before we end things?
I want to thank you guys getting such positive stuff out in the community.
Yeah, thank you.
You guys are just amazing, so thank you.
Appreciate it. Appreciate you showing us around the hospital.
Sure.
Yeah, it's been a good time. It's good to learn more about CMH. I mean, I'm not super sick at the moment, but...
Good, let's keep it that way.
Let's keep it that way, yeah. So it's cool to see the ins and outs of what the hospital does for the community and how important it is for us. So thank you for what you do.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Well, that's it for our podcast today. I hope you enjoyed our interview with Veronica Grabill. If you have any more questions or ideas for her, please feel free to reach out directly. If she'll talk to us dorks, she will certainly talk to you as well. After all, we are a community of empowered individuals. If you want to get in touch and share your story with Real Change Wilmington, you can contact us on our website at realchangewilmington.com, visit our Facebook and Instagram pages, or grab a free copy of our local newspaper at Kroger, Sam's Meats, and Fiesta Bear Cruz. We also currently send our newspaper direct mail to over 2,500 Wilmington residents a month. So if you want to help us cover our printing costs and advertise your local business, event, or job posting, please email us at advertise@realchangewilmington.com. With that, I'm your host, Dustin Pierce. Keep it real, Wilmington.